Alright everybody, in this video we are going to actually start drawing on our canvas. And so before we do this, when we get into this, there's one thing we need to talk about, and that is what the origin is. Because in order to program some shapes, we need to know where we're drawing. So if you look over here, if you've programmed in Scratch before, they have a different origin than what we use for processing. Notice that the origin, which is x0 and y0, and by the way, the x goes from left to right, and the y goes from up to down. It's really important. But in Scratch, the origin is in the very center. So if x is getting bigger this way, it's a positive number. If x is getting smaller, it's a negative number. Y going up is positive, y going below is negative, and it all starts from the center. In processing, the origin is actually in the top left corner. That's where x is 0 and y is 0. So if we want to draw further to the right on our canvas, the x would go from 0 up. There is no negative. And if we wanted to draw down the canvas, the y would go up. There is no negative, okay? So that's really important to understand. So going back to our sketch where we left off, we have our size and our background, and now in this draw function here, between these two curly braces, we are going to use a new function, which is the rect function. So this is how we're going to draw a rectangle. Let me see if I can go to the slide here. Here it is. So the rect function is rect parentheses, and then there's 4 parameters that you have to put in to make this function work. You have to put in the starting x point, the starting y point, the width, which is how long you want it to be, and then the height, which is how high you want it to go. So in order to do this, let's just practice one to see if you can understand what we're doing here. So I'm going to go to my processing sketch, and I'm going to type the rect function. And remember, my size right now is 20 by 20. So I'm going to start, let's say, at 1x and 1y. And then the width is going to be, let's make it 10. And the height, let's make that 10. It's going to be 10 long, and it's going to go down 10. I'm going to close the parentheses. Don't forget your semicolon. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, there it is. So you notice I have this little square here on my canvas. Now, the next thing you need to understand is every shape by default has a thing called a stroke and a fill. All right, so let me hide this for a second. And the stroke is the line that goes around the rectangle, and the fill is the color that goes inside. So right now, if you look at my rectangle here, oops, I don't want to go to Steam. There we go. If you look at my little rectangle, my fill must be white, which is the same as the background, and my stroke is black. So I want to do 2 things to try to make this stand out. First thing I want to do is, oops, get out of Steam. First thing I want to do is get rid of my stroke. I only want to have the fill. So the way you do that is another function. I'm going to do this before I start drawing. So this function, anything that happens after it, it'll take effect. And this is called no stroke. Notice the S is capital. That's very important. And then all I need to do is 2 parentheses, don't need to put anything inside of there, and a semicolon. The next thing I want to do is change the color of my fill, and I want it to be black. So it's a high contrast between the background, which is white, and what the fill is. So to change the fill color, right below no stroke, I'm going to just type fill, all lowercase, parentheses, and this is a color value, so we need RGB. We need 3 numbers to go in here. So if I want to make black, I want zeros, all zeros, because 0 is the absence of color, and on a monitor, when there's no color or anything, it's black. And don't forget your semicolon. All right, so let's run this and see what it looks like now. Oh, here it is down here. So notice now I've gotten rid of the stroke, and now the color is black. So there's my rectangle. So what you're going to do is, once you kind of understand how this works, is you're going to go into your pixel art, and you're going to start to figure out what those parameters are to draw the rectangles. Let me see if I can find mine. So here is my pixel art. If I wanted to find where to draw in here, I would start, and you don't have to draw each individual one. You can actually, this is a shape right here. So you want to try to find your shapes. I'm going to use this as a rectangle and as an example. All right, now I can draw. So if I was going to program this first top shape here, I would find my X, first my X and my Y starting points. All right, so my X goes along left to right. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my X. My Y starting point is 0, because it's right on this line. Remember, the origin is the top left starting point of your shape. So I would do 8. Let me just write this down up here. I would do rect, parentheses. I would do X would be 8, comma, Y would be 0, comma, and then remember I need the width, so I count how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, would be 4, and then the height only goes down 1. And if I do this, and I program it, I should get this shape on my canvas. Let's try it. Oops, let me turn this off. So if I go back here, I'm going to get rid of this. Actually, I'm going to keep the function. I'm just going to change the numbers. So it was 8 for my X point, 0 for my Y point. I went across 4 for my width, and just 1 for my height. Let's do that. And there it is. It's really small right now because we're only doing 20 by 20, but you see how that? So what you want to do is go through your whole sheet and figure out each shape and program it. Now if I get down here, I actually have a really big rectangle in here. So I can get all of these in just one function. It would be rect. Let's see. My starting X point would be 4. My starting Y point would be 12. My width would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And my height would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would plug that into a rect function and it would draw this whole thing. So see how you do with that, and we'll go from there. Bye.